is wonderful. Okay, we are live. Right. We'll wait for 1 or 2 seconds for letting people join, and then we'll start. Guys, welcome to the weekend conversation by Eternal Quest. I am Kosha, your host for the day, and with me, I'll be having extremely talented, uh, very interesting personality, author Sai Swarupa Iyer today for the
Thank
conversation.
you.
Yeah, welcome. Before I let you know who she is, a little bit about her, we'll just wait for 1 or 2 seconds for people to join, and then we'll move ahead. So, the heat, the rain, and the pandemic, along with many other diseases going on, bird flu, swine flu, I don't know, floods in Mumbai, whatnot, heavy rainfall causing flood in Mumbai, whatnot. With all that, I guess right now, gives us reading books. I am not telling about the news, but reading books gives us peace, mental peace, and everything. We be a little bit out of the situation through it, right?
True, so much true.
Okay, guys, so with me I have author Sai Swarupa, who is an IIM alum,
IIT.
IIT, sorry, IIT alumnus. She was an investment banker turned to a passionate writer. I don't know how love for figures turned into love for words. We'll know as we progress the evening, but she was an investment banker, and she is a trained classical singer, and she has received gold medal by TTD. She holds a certificate in Puranas from Oxford School of Hindu Studies, and of course she is an writer of 4 novels, all based on legendary female protagonists from ancient Hindu literature. All right, as we move ahead, before that, welcome to this platform, and we are glad that you'll be sharing with us on the ancient, rich Indian literature, which we all are proud of. But we know very few things about it, not in detail. We know some few which are folk tales, from our grandmothers or from wherever we have heard or read it, and in that all the main characters, but all your books are into the characters which were hidden or which were backstage at that time but were equally important. So hats off for such wonderful books, of which I only know two of the characters, that is Draupadi and Rukmani. So only two characters I know. But as in when we converse, I'm sure my viewers and I, both of us, will enjoy the knowing about those characters. All right. Mythology and spirituality is often considered as one. There is very thin line between the two, which we tend to ignore. So, as a person who is spiritual, often likes reading mythology. That goes without saying. And
Yeah.
what was your incident which made you jump to writing mythological characters in specific?
So, firstly, let me start by thanking you for that very warm welcome, Kosha. It's always a pleasure to chat with other authors because they uh, seem to get what it takes, to pass through the journey. So, looking forward for this wonderful evening. And also, thank you, Vijayalakshmi, for inviting me. I've been following conversations on the Eternal Quest, and each of them have a unique touch. I guess you guys put a lot of research and work into making tailoring each conversation to the author and to the audience. So hats off, you guys. And yes, coming to the question about mythology and spirituality. So Kosha, we are so fortunate to be a part of this civilization called Hinduism.
Hmm.
I know there is a lot of debate about whether it's a religion, it's a way of life, it's something else, everything, But the word eternal brings me to that, conclusion that Hinduism is something that will find a way to keep going. So
Wonderful.
it's a very what do you say, it's a kind of that fertile earth, it's mother earth, right? So there is mythology, there is spirituality, there is history, and there's this continuous legacy which we have inherited. So we have been been here for a while, for a longer while than a lot others.
Hmm. Hmm.
And and I get to know from other authors and who have researched on ancient cultures. We are the only goddess worshipping culture alive in this
Wow.
on this earth.
Didn't knew this.
Yep.
Okay. Well, good.
So,
In
coming to mythology and spirituality, so everything is so interconnected, so very closely connected here. We'll debate about the word mythology because I have a bit of a problem with that word. But yes, coming to stories, the whole corpus of literature we inherited from our ancestors, be it the Mahabharata, Ramayana, all the Puranas, Upanishads. So the transition to from a worldly person to a spiritual person happens at the individual's pace. There is no set pace for it is structured, but it is tailor made. That's what is the unique aspect of Hinduism. So you want to live like a grihast, like there are ashramas. So you, as a brahmachari, you acquire knowledge. As a grihastha, you start a family and have a social role also to play. So you want to pass through all the ashramas, fulfill your worldly responsibilities, and also have your fulfill your personal ambitions. There's a place for everything, and you slowly transition towards the spiritual path.
inner
And
path.
here, sorry, I want to quote a poem, a Telugu poem
Okay.
by Dhurjati Mahakavi. He existed during the times of the Vijayanagara. He was the court poet of one of the Ashtadiggajas in the court of Krishna Devaraya. So he says, when should I start praying? He's a huge devotee of Sri Kalahastishvara, that is Lord Shiva. So he says, Dantambul padanappude, Tanugnanda Arudhi unnappude, Kanta Sangamu Bayanappude, Jarakrantambu Kanappude, Vintal Mena Chirinchanappude, Kurul Vellella Kanappude, Chintimpanvele ni Padabja Yugamul Sri Kalahastishvara, which means I should start thinking about you. I should be in the, aware of you, oh Lord Shiva, before my teeth start falling down, before my hair turns white, before I leave, the company of women, and before disabilities or weaknesses overcome my body, as I am, it means like as I am going about with my worldly life, I should be in constant
With you.
contact with you, or constant
Correct.
thoughts about you. So
Correct.
that itself is a great what do you say, a great characteristic that of Hinduism, that we are so fortunate to be a part of. There is spirituality and worldly life, they are not against each other.
Correct. Correct.
uh,
Correct.
so,
They're not against. And wonderful thing, the poet meant is that you should not be religious or you should not be worshipping when you have nothing to do in your worldly life. That is,
yes,
you should not wait for an age or wait for a, like old age mein jaake ab sara kaam khatam ho gaya, now my time will be for God. It should not be that. If you believe in God, whoever you worship, secondary question. But if you believe in God, He should be part and parcel of your life.
life. And and no god wants you to leave everything and leave your worldly responsibilities and just be. So we just have everything coming together. That's the
Correct.
beauty of
I
it.
am a follower of Jainism, so uh,
Ah,
our all Tirthankars completed their worldly responsibilities and then
Yes.
ended their higher intelligence or conscious, self-conscious. What do you say?
Sure. Wonderful. I think then I'll get in touch with you offline for my research. Kosha, that will
Definitely,
be so
most
nice.
welcome. Whatever I can help. Okay. Your Okay, in real life, so are you a spiritual, strong believer in God, a spiritual person? God,
Yes, very much because I was brought up in a very devout family. My father used to chant Sri Rudram, Vishnu Sahasranama, Mantra Pushpam, Purusha Suktam, Sri Suktam, everything. So all these used to be my wake up calls in my childhood. So, and my mother is an extremely disciplined person in life, and the religion plays a huge part in determining this personal rigor and personal discipline. So yes, I can't say I have inherited everything from them, but I try to follow whatever little I can given today's life.
love. Okay, your books, Draupadi, Rukmini, Avishi, Mori, all are based on female protagonists from ancient Hindu literature. So, any reason for choosing only females? Apart
Uh,
from being a female, a little biased to it.
No, at this point of time, I would love to explore a male protagonist. For the just for the creative completion part of it. But it started from a female perspective. Because one thing, the original literature corpus that was given to us by Maharshi Veda Vyasa, Valmiki. If we read the original, there is a lot of focus given to the feminine,
True.
right? There's a lot of focus. It's just that in the popular adaptations, as well as the summarized retellings and popular adaptations, stage plays. So where stage plays began as a what do you say? There was not
Me.
much space for women actors when it started. So the whole adaptation started in a very male dominated spectrum.
But actually, it is not that.
Actually, it is not like that. So, for just an example from my Draupadi, I should say from Vyasa's Draupadi. So there is, we all remember that very disturbing Vastraharana scene of the Dyut Sabha, right? And
Because
a
we
lot
all
of adaptations, yes, and a lot of adaptations, they stop with the miracle where Dushasana tries to pull her sari and Lord Krishna saves her by giving and then it just rushes through the next part, and then we see the Pandavas in the Vanavas.
Hmm,
But
hmm,
what exactly, how Vyasa portrayed it was, the whole Vastraharana part takes part in 2 or 3 shlokas,
hmm.
and a whole chapter or a chapter and a half it is dedicated to the question Draupadi puts in the sabha to the king, for which nobody has an answer, and one by one each of them starts supporting Draupadi, like Vidura is supporting her from the beginning. Yes, then there is Vikarna, then the rishis in the sabha, whoever are there, they start supporting her. Gandhari supports her. That's a big
Oh,
turnaround. So the way she wins over the support of the court just by her logical argument,
that
right?
part
And then
is
she
very
compels Dhritarashtra to annul the game totally. So the look at the way she's just dragged in, with people calling her a slave and all, whatever. And
their
then she
challenge.
goes back. When she goes back, she's the empress she was.
Correct. So that part we don't know. We all
That
think
part
that, yeah, we all look at her through pity. Okay, she was abused and she was harassed and all that. We
exactly.
don't really know that part. But how she won with her logic and not only through the help of Krishna, Lord Krishna.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. Yes. So we fail to recognize this intellectual part, the intellectual aspect of ancient women. They were warriors. being a warrior was not something out of the world. Then everybody had to get trained.
No.
Few
Yeah.
may have, yeah, a few may have fought wars, a few may not have fought. I guess in your the among the Jains, I am a big fan of Rani Abbakka Devi. Karnataka queen. She was an awesome queen. So yes, we have queens who have fought. We have queens who have not fought, but each of them have left a very strong imprint with their intellect, and that is that's my a part of my endeavor is to highlight that unique
Yeah.
part of each ancient each historical woman.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So that's beauty with brains goes true since ancient age.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Rukmini being your latest book and a known name to us like common people, let us start from there. What inspired you about this character that you wrote the entire book and what the book is about?
Yes, so same like Draupadi. Of course, Draupadi is given a lot of stage and space by Vedavyasa. So, it was easier for me to write about her. With Rukmini, a lot is left unsaid. It shows, even Vyasa follows the rule of show and don't tell. That we fiction writers keep, that's a rule for her for us, right? So a lot of transformation happens at a macro political level because of Rukmini, which goes unspoken. So, which is that was my biggest reason for exploring her tale. So, coming to Rukmini, just to summarize her life. So, she's a princess of Vidarbha, modern Maharashtra, part of MP. So, and she was like promised to Shishupala against her wishes. Shishupala is the prince of Chedi. Against her wishes, she was promised to Shishupala, but she loves Krishna, and she knows that this kind of arranging her own wedding without her consent is being masterminded by a king called Jarasandha, who's the king of Magadha. He does not really go about doing conquests like Rajasuya and all that. It requires a lot of military strength and investment and whatnot, but this guy found out a nice way of dominating the world by getting into this marital alliance making between kingdoms, so that this king remains very grateful to him,
Faithful.
because I got to marry the princess of Vidarbha because this guy supported me, so I'll be so that way. And he gave his own daughters to Kamsa, and Kamsa is a small Yadava leader
Yeah.
compared to, say, Panchala, Kuru, and all. But he saw that Pandu was a very promising prince, and he gave his daughter. So he wanted to empower Kamsa against Pandu. The
Okay.
story took a different turn, so we
Yeah.
don't look at it that way. But so that is the kind of what do you say, domination that Jarasandha was planning. He was successful for a whole generation. Rukmini was the first girl or first person who stood up to him and who just got things her way,
Hmm.
despite the whole might of Jarasandha being there. She sends a message to Krishna. They plan elopement. She also knows where the security is. Less, so she says, I'll be going to this temple to perform Gauri Puja. That's the best time to take me. You should barge in there. The whoever the guards will not be very active at that point of time. There will only be women around me, so then I'll break out of the circle, and you can so look at the strategy that was involved here. So
Okay.
and
Okay.
again, Rukmini is very famous, is popular for her bhakti. And then what happened, what went wrong with portrayal of bhakti in our popular tradition, again, is that the word brings us a very passive picture of somebody who's not bothered about the world and who's always blissfully engaged
Yeah.
in namasmarana. That's what that's but let me ask you, if I ask you, what is the who's the greatest example for bhakti for who can you call a bhakta, the greatest bhakta? I think the first name that comes to me is Lord Hanuman, and he is not in any way passive. He stands for action. Actually, Ramayana itself, turns into a very action oriented
It's
phase with the entry of Lord Hanuman.
different.
So action and bhakti are not opposed to each other again. So they exist in consonance with each other. So that it's the
Parallel.
same about Rukmini. So she is very devoted to Dharma and Lord Krishna, but that doesn't make her, some submissive woman. So I wanted to bring out that active participant who's a woman who's interested in the outer world, who knows what is going wrong with the world, and who wants to correct it in her own terms. Right? That is Rukmini.
Hmm. Hmm. The mental status. Yeah. Strong women. Like they believe in God, they believe in science, they believe in conscience, and they believe in strength. Everything together.
Very well
Wonderful.
summarized.
All right. Uh, Thank you. Okay, so your book, Avishi from Rigveda, is acquired for screen adaptation. Of course, it feels amazing. I know when your work is adapted for some screen. But how did you research for that book, and what made you write about it? So researching
Yes.
means you might be reading the Vedas a lot, and now we know that your morning calls, your childhood has been such where your father and mother were you were exposed to that environment. But still, reading our Vedas is difficult.
Yes. So, yes, as you said, Vedas have a lot of knowledge than just prayers. Prayers is one part of it, but they have a lot of contemplation and contemplation for larger good. And Avishi, the legend of Vishpala. Vishpala is an ancient queen. She loses her leg in a battle. It's called as Kela's battle. She loses her leg, and the Ashwini Kumaras, they are the divine doctors. They fit her with a prosthetic leg, and this is the first case of prosthesis in world literature.
Exactly. So at that time, ancient, you're talking about years and years back. At that time, prosthetic
Yes,
leg.
and they are very specific. Specifically, it has been mentioned as a metal leg. It's not like the gods, they can perform miracles, so they could have just given her back the leg, right? So that was not what was written, but they fitted her with a iron leg, with a metal leg. Historians debate whether it's iron, bronze, copper. That's a historical debate, but but it is a metallic leg, and that's the first case of prosthesis that we
Exactly.
talk about.
Uh,
And
yeah,
the unfortunate part of it was that I was searching for some historical woman for who existed before the times of Mahabharata for a reason, historical warrior, and I came across Vishpala, and as the first case of prosthesis in world literature and all, but this was mentioned in an Israeli medical journal, Kosha, not any of Indian.
that's
So that's what
shocking.
compelled me to write. We have to make some stories popular,
Yeah,
right?
they are
I mean,
not
I at least I don't want the next generation to be finding out about Vishpala from foreign
from
journals.
foreign journals. Exactly. Imagine. That's shocking. I mean, even if you would have not said Abhi tak, I don't know. Those who might have read your book might be knowing. Others, very few might be knowing or not knowing at all.
So
Shocking.
I hope the screen adaptation makes that difference.
Yeah, it will make the difference. Of course. Yeah. Okay. Okay, coming to your other books, you can show us the covers of the book and tell us a little bit about your other books, and then we can move ahead to further conversation.
Sure. My first book, it started with Abhaya. Abhaya started everything, and even now, I guess even Draupadi, Mauri, Draupadi, and Rukmini, they have hinged upon the first. chunk of research I have done for Abhaya. So it started with a conversation of mine with a Muslim friend, and of course, in grassroots, we are open-minded. We have active conversations. It's not like how it's portrayed in the media as if people hate each other and all that. So she asked me, if Krishna has so many wives, why do you love him so much? So she knows how the way Janmashtami is conducted. She's been a part of some celebrations also. So it's like, then she was curiously asking me, ki, how do you manage to love a person with so much fervor, though he has so many wives, and other on the other hand, you have Rama who is so faithful to one wife, and how can you just
Still,
treat them side by side and with equal bhakti and all that. So I explained her the story of Narakasura Vadha of Lord Krishna, where Narakasura is Rakshasa who has imprisoned Asura. Rakshasa is not the term, but Asura who has imprisoned 16,000 women against their will, and Krishna kills Narakasura. And then he discovers that those women have nowhere to go because they have been captives of Narakasura, and he wants them to live a normal life, and that's possible
society,
only when they become his wives. Sorry, you wanted to say something?
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I said
that is the
they
story.
society will not
With,
accept.
sorry, I guess there is a delay, so I'll wait for you to come back, Kosha.
Okay. So I was just saying that society will not accept them as a normal female, as a normal human. So if they become a God's wife, everybody will see them at least with respect, which they deserve.
Exactly.
I guess that's what
Exactly. So,
is it.
yeah, and for those times, it would have been a revolutionary thought. It's not one woman, it's not two women, it's not three, four, five, 10, it's 16,000 women. You'll have to set up a whole new city for that. So, while
Yeah.
I was narrating the story to her, and some of this conversation stuck to me. This happened during high school, but it stuck with me. It's just stuck with me, and I wanted to explore that story from the perspective of a woman, one of those 16,000 women. And then it came down to reconciling the story with the world of Mahabharata. So I had to think about, okay, while this was happening, what would have been happening with the Pandavas, what would have been happening in the greater Bharat, and which kingdom would she have belonged to? Did she have a prior contact with Krishna, and what was her view of the whatever was happening with the world? And everything, it just made up for a very exciting story. And there is also a Shakta parallel to this whole story, where Narakasura is a Shakti worshipper. That explains the women. He's a Tantra practitioner
Hmm.
of
Hmm.
Shakta
Hmm.
Tantra. Something went terribly wrong, and the goddess herself kills him.
Oh.
Yes,
See,
according to the Shakta legends, the goddess kills him. According to Vaishnava legends, Lord Krishna kills him. And a large part of South Indians, we believe that Satyabhama killed him.
acha.
So yes,
Okay.
yes. So there's a very
Conflict.
interesting exercise of reconciliation that happened while writing Abhaya. Yes, a lot of research to happened during that writing phase, which helped me write my later books also. So then
Ha.
Mauri
You
is
got
again,
another.
yes, yes. So everything is set in the world of Mahabharata, yes.
Okay, great. Okay, coming to your writing process, you search for historical places during your free time, and you love doing that. Is your for your next project? How do you do it? And is that true that you are searching an historical place for your next project?
So historical temples especially have a lot of inspirational vibes around them. If you look at it right from the sculptures, the architecture, the sculptures, and the stories depicted on the walls of the temples, on the corridor, across the corridors, and the legend behind the temple. I may not be necessarily exploring that particular legend, but everything connects into a very beautiful chain of thoughts, which is why I find historical temples the best places to get inspired for the next story. But then after that starts the real process of research. So it's very important to be very well versed with the source literature. I am all for creative liberty for the aesthetic sense, aesthetic purposes. Yes, you need to be that comfortable with the people, with those characters enough to take liberties, right? I mean, I
But
we
still,
need to be friends to
you
be free with each other and to take that liberty. So I need to be acquainted with those people of the past enough to be taking liberties with them.
live. Correct, correct, correct. Yeah. Okay. But and ancient by buildings, ancient temples or any structure you take, they had all the messages carved on their
Yes.
different messages carved on their walls, on their periphery, everywhere. And that too, when they didn't had all those machines, they are beautiful. In our Jainism also, we have some
Uh, I'm a big fan of
ancient
Jain temples,
temple
especially
notes
the
proper on
intricate
how
art is so
how to
intricately done.
uh, this technical glitch. I Your voice is cracking.
No, I just wanted to say I'm a big fan of the intricate art that is a part of this Jain temple architecture. It's very, very beautifully done, very, very intricately.
Yeah, yeah. And at the time when they didn't had any trucks or anything to carry, carry heavy loads, or no machines even
Exactly.
to carve. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we the fact you said, you should be aware with the fact, and the fact remains same. Though you take liberty in your writing, but you cannot change certain facts that should not be altered. So how do you research for your books that the fact remains same? You say your point, which you observe in between the lines or in between the words behind the scenes, and yet keeping the
Yes.
facts unaltered.
Yes. So here I want to give the allegory of a story which is there in Ramayana. It's about how Bhagiratha, he's a king from Raghuvamsha. So Bhagiratha, he brings Ganga down. So now Bhagiratha has a mission to help his ancestors get Swarga. So that's the reason why he wants Mother Ganga to descend to the earth and bless his ancestors, right? And when Ganga comes, she does not just mutely follow Bhagiratha. Right? She has her own flow. She has, her own force. She has her own pace. She goes about. She divides into tributaries, converges, diverges, converges, and there's a whole beautiful plain of the Gangetic plain created in the whole process, which became the bed of one of the best civilizations, right? So a storyteller's path is to, but she reached where Bhagiratha wanted to reach. She just did not go,
Okay.
somewhere else. She reached,
My next
but she
question
followed her
again.
own path.
Okay. Okay.
So that is a storyteller's dharma. I think I have to reach where, what Vyasa wanted to tell. I think I want to converge with Veda Vyasa. But I am free to, just carve my own paths. That's for the rasa. And also there is an Indic storytelling versus the commercial storytelling that is in vogue today. In Indic storytelling, again in Mahabharata, say Mahabharata was narrated to Janamejaya by Vaishampayana, who is the disciple of Vedavyasa. Now Janamejaya is an emperor. He has set aside his life for those 15, 21 days. He has set his things in the autopilot, appointed ministers, entrusted his brothers, and there's no disturbance to him. And it's
Correct.
not like he does not know the story,
Hmm.
right? It's not like he does not know the story. It's his great grandfather's story. So he's interested in the wisdom behind the story. So he's not in a hurry to, oh well, after that what happened. He's not interested in the what. He's interested in the how and what was exactly behind. So that is Indic storytelling. But commercial storytelling, 21st century storytelling, we don't have Janame Jayas or Parikshits among us. We may have just the time to, flip over a few pages, those airport journeys, in the pre-pandemic times, or whatever, those precious 15-20 minutes is all we get. And those chunks of those reading time, those precious reading time, is what we storytellers have to garner reader interest.
Hmm.
So we have to tell it in such a way that the reader gets interested through our stories to pursue a greater journey.
Great Arjun. Wonderful example of gauges, I would say, which you gave, Mother Ganga. Sorry. Uh, okay.
Sure, sure.
So, which you gave a wonderful example that you carve your own path and reach where it is destined to reach. That's, I guess, a wonderful message to every viewer for everything they are doing, anything they are doing in their life. A wonderful message. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks a
Okay.
lot.
Okay. You have sorry, just a minute. Okay. Okay, you've read a lot of ancient literature, Indian literature. Might be other literatures also you might have read, but particularly talking about Indian literatures, do you feel that females then were more strong mentally and emotionally than they are right now?
Not
We
just
are.
women, but even men. People were mentally stronger in that era. Yes, because there was a sense of balance. Of course, it's not, I won't say everything was perfect then. There were people who strayed, there were people who would have been great but went the wrong way, which is why the whole story happened. There was all that, but there was a strong sense of balance between purusharthas, that is dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So we never banished kama as something bad. We never thought that commerce is evil or profit is evil, but we believe that everything had to exist in its proportions. So the men and women of ancient period had this sense of balance, so they were guilt free when the traders did their trades guilt freely. And
Hmm.
whoever was
Perfect.
engaged in kama is not just sensual stuff, but anything with that what do you say, momentary satisfaction, right?
Pleasure.
Anything that appeals to your senses, and you just want that to happen right then and there, that is kama. And there was a certain amount of life allocated to kama. There was a certain amount of life allocated to artha. But all this artha and kama happen in consonance with dharma, that's a larger good. That's a larger social good. And then we go to the path of moksha. So with this sense of balance, men as well as women had a larger perspective always. So when you have a larger perspective, you don't tend to take very impulsive decisions, or just think that the world has ended. But today we have this excessive focus on artha and kama, or there is a greater disillusionment, like the world is going to end, kind of a this one. If you just look at the conversations happening on social media, everybody's angrier than they should be at trivial issues sometimes. And then you look at the corporate
Agree.
this thing, they're all like if they relax for a half an hour, maybe the stocks will come crumbling down or something. So there is an excessive focus out of balance, out of the purusharthas, which is why we have that weakness today. And men and women of yesteryears had that sense of balance, which is why they were stronger.
agree. And that's why we have these mental issues more in this era than ancient times.
Exactly,
The
exactly,
so-called depression, anxiety, or killing yourself, suicide, whatever we
exactly.
say. Yeah. Okay. Modern writers are retelling Indian mythology or Indian legendary tales through a feminist lens. So, is that necessary? Do women require those kind of certificates? And why aren't women understood without being quoted?
So I personally, I feel that feminist retelling of Indian epics was a thing of 1970s. That was the time where the economy was at its worst, and the pre-liberalization movement phase. There were the employment and the unemployment problem was there, and the everything used to come and crumble down on women. So that's what used to happen
Agree.
in the 1970s, which is why there was a lot of this angst amongst writers, and they kind of blindly blamed it on the past. It was actually what is the post-colonial phase where things went out of balance. So in the older generation, what used to happen, the ancient period, what used to happen was man and women shared everything, including their profession. So if you say if you are a wife of a Brahmana who used to teach, the wife also would learn something from her husband. She would also turn a teacher. She would manage his ashram. She's not just sitting at home and cooking. So she's a part of his
Equality.
profession. Yes,
Equality.
and queens, there's no escape. Even if they want an escape, there's no escape from admin.
There is correct.
So yes, and traders, and actually if you see small businesses even today, uh, men are in the procurement. It's the women who run shops.
Correct.
If you
Correct.
Yeah,
Sitting on the cash box and yes, yes,
yes,
absolutely correct.
exactly. And it's tough to bargain with women, women shopkeepers. So they are the ones. So it's so there's that parity. I won't use the word equality, but there is parity between genders. There used to be that parity. When was that parity lost? When in the professional sense, the man and wife got separated with this
Correct.
clerical jobs,
Correct.
industrialization that happened thoughtlessly. The clerical jobs, the man could not share his job with the woman, which
So,
pushed her.
okay, yes, yes. Differences
Yes,
started coming up mentally,
yes,
mental parity, they lost their mental parity.
yes, that parity was lost, which is why you have a lot of angst filled literature coming in that
Huh,
phase.
huh.
So
So,
I personally think we are over that now, because
we
we
are,
are, women are in the corporate sector. We have found a new way of, like, now I used to travel for literature festivals. My husband takes care of my daughter. He can cook better than me.
same
Okay,
here.
everyone's listening. So we have reached that place
Level.
where we could rebalance. Right? Okay, there's no the parity, right? There is no going back to those
Of
periods.
course.
So because there is,
Yeah, of course.
industrialization is irreversible. So we have found we need to find that the newer points of parity, taking the older inspiration.
Inspiration. The
So I
situations.
don't exactly. So I don't find the need for that angsty feminist literature right now. It's about finding a solution.
Correct, correct. Balance abhi hai to a larger extent. We have been the world has been balancing between male and female, the two wills
Yes,
of the where we run. We synergize our emotions and work together.
sure.
Yeah, there is a lot of staying home daddy is accepted now, which was earlier
Yes,
not. Staying
yes,
home
yes.
daily is accepted now. And to a larger extent, all this cooking and everything is considered as a part of be living or part of being independent. Not that so
Exactly.
male है तो उसको ये आता है, female है तो she knows driving. That's normal, I
Yep,
guess.
I
Yeah.
know.
So yeah, great. Okay, so you already cleared my next question, which was that women are generally blamed to be a reason of every bloodshed war fought till date. Or, but rather than that, I would say that she is the reason for giving birth to every blood in this world. To a larger
Yes.
extent, we have changed our thoughts towards women, but still there is some part in the society who thinks that women working or menstruation or pregnancy or giving birth is still a taboo in the major part. So your take on it?
Taboo is like, again, there's a lot of Western ancient, what do I would say, the dogmatic Western belief that has seeped in about menstruation, or whatever. And it's a bad mixture of everything that has gone negative, Kosha. So when you ask, was woman the reason for every war that happened? Any war that would have happened, not just the Mahabharata war, it cannot happen because of one person. The things have to go wrong in a series of, it has to be a series of
Incident.
wrong decisions by many people, to for things to end up in a war of that scale, especially Mahabharata. So many kingdoms got involved, and you just can't sit blaming Draupadi for that. She's not a bloodthirsty woman. Even if she is, you can't sit blaming Draupadi for that. And even Duryodhana, for that matter, because there were people who were capable of stopping the war, who did not rise to the situation. So
Correct.
yeah, so the wars that were fought, I think a lot of factors were responsible, spanning generations.
Mm.
And
Getting
coming
to
to this,
again.
but the thing is, it's a poetical exaggeration. The poets of some time in between wanted to send a message to not mess with women, and that got corrupted into women cause
Correct.
wars.
Correct. Correct. This is like how the wrong message spreads more faster than the right one.
Yes, yes.
Okay, before we move ahead to the conversation, we have a compliment and a question for you from Raghu Chandra. Uh, I'm sorry, Kak, Kak, Kakarma.
Kakar.
I'm sorry if I am pronouncing it in the wrong way. But what is the Hindu holy history considered, and why is the Hindu holy history considered and called myth?
Myth. So, myth, the word myth is mythology. I told you we'll discuss this term later in the discussion. So, thank you, Raghu, for asking that. So, the term mythology is used by Abrahamic scholars to describe the religious content of ancient religions, like, say, ancient Roman religion, ancient Greek religion, ancient Celtic religion. That's even more beautiful. So they were all the belief systems of these ancient cultures was called as mythology, because the Abrahamic religions wanted to set a certain narrative. We won't go into the details of
They don't
that.
have anything in return, I guess. That religion don't have anything in return. It is what they perceive from the universe, they narrate it,
Yes,
not
oral
like
traditions.
us.
Most of
They
the
have.
knowledge was passed on orally.
Yes, yes,
So even
yes.
the written part of the literature was not available. So once the written word started getting that importance, right? These oral traditions, goddess worshipping traditions, the nature related practices, everything that got termed as mythology, as something to say it is old religions which are not valid today.
Hmm,
And for
hmm,
some reason, they bundled Hinduism along with those traditions
hmm.
and started calling it mythology. Technically, it would be wrong to call mythology, because we are a thriving religion. When I say Hinduism, I mean to include Buddhism and Jainism as well, because There are thought processes that evolved in this larger civilizational ground. So none of us is mythology. We can call it ancient. I prefer to call it ancient history.
Okay, wonderful. I hope you have your answer. If we have any other questions, can you please put forward? Okay. As in when we have other question or compliment, Rajesh Rubel, thank you for joining and hi to you. As in when we have any further questions, please put forward. Okay, let us move forward. Okay, we have. Okay, from Anurag. Good evening. I have seen certain videos claiming Ashwatthama is still alive for a reason being he was cursed by Lord Krishna. How true is that?
Uh, it's tough for me to tell. I have not met Ashwathama till date. So, so Anurag ji, the curse of Krishna on Ashwathama was, according to some editions and versions, Krishna cursed Ashwathama to live for 3,000 years. So if that is true, and the dating thing about Mahabharata that we have is true, then I think Ashwathama would have passed on. But then we also remember Ashwathama as one of the Chiranjeevis, that is who would be there till the end of the world, and
Mortal.
he has a greater destiny to fulfill after that. So I guess he'll be a part of that. Whether he is alive in his body or not, he would have passed on to his next role deemed by the universe. That's my belief.
Okay. Jai Shri. Hi. Great conversation that makes one sees things from different point of view too. One question, if you can please answer, which is the most strong and most weak character of Mahabharata as per you? Over to you.
Thank you, Jayashri. Each character of Mahabharata is strong in his or her own way. Uh, I mean, I know it'll look like a very diplomatic answer, but once we get
That's
into
why I
each
said over to you.
personal journeys, we would find strength and weakness in every one of them, right? And see, but we when we understand the story, again, that is a side effect of commercial storytelling. We tend to reduce story into moments, right? Defining moments, or turning points, game changers, or whatever the this one
What?
is. But when we want to observe the characters, I think we have to observe the whole trajectory, and then make our own conclusions about it. So I would say every character is very strong. They may be right, the right wrong can be debated, with all the retrospection, the luxury of retrospection that we have. We may end up debating the rightness or the wrongness of each decision made, but every character was really strong. But if you ask me to pick a character, I think I would pick Yudhishthira, because the law that he has seen is something unimaginable for any of us, and still he managed to hold everything together till the end. That is something, it goes past us, because a lot of us will not see him past that gambling scene,
Hmm.
right? Where he
Yes.
gambles away
Yes.
his brothers and wife, and a lot of us define him based on that. But just
Yes.
look at his journey of being born in a forest, then coming into a very hostile household, holding his brothers together, then rising as an emperor, losing everything again, then going through the whole Vanavasa, fighting a war, and the whole roller coaster ride of Yudhishthira. I think once we remember his whole story, we will grow stronger mentally. We will start accepting our own faults, and then we'll start on improving ourselves. So that would be my pick.
Wonderful. Yeah, we only see that person as a bad, weak.
Because we are letting a moment define. Okay, but it's a whole life trajectory that's important.
I guess that's what we do today also, as a society, as a human. Somewhere we
Exactly.
We let the situation define the person. Actually, the
Exactly.
situation is good or bad, right or wrong. The person is not. But in a particular situation, if that person has done something wrong, we totally define that person or form an opinion that that person is wrong, that person is bad. We still do in our lives, and which is a great thing to learn that we should not be doing that. We
We
should
should not be doing that, and firstly, we should not be doing that to ourselves. As to,
ourselves also.
when we judge ourselves, we need to take the whole trajectory into consideration and still look forward, the way ancient people looked at, because they lived each day, they totally lived each day, which is why they came out stronger.
Correct. They lived, yeah. They thought that we live once. We live that moment once. We don't die once. They thought that. Wonderful.
Yes, yes. So if it's a failure in an examination or a job interview or an appraisal, anything that should not continue to define us.
Correct.
Something went wrong, that shouldn't continue to define us for longer than what it should.
Right. Okay, we'll take up questions again after some time. Moving on further with our conversation. Youth today just don't believe in what it is said. They research themselves and have their own perspective. So, does this make your books more popular? And what is the reader base for your book? Reader group, I would say.
See, I would say the ideal reader base for me would be young women of 21st century, millennials, maybe add and subtract 10 years, if you want me to. But then I always have very surprising samples outside the, defined spectrum. A lot of male readers like my books because they feel that I treat the male characters with a lot of sensitivity. So the truth is that I try to what do you say? I try to give the character the control over story rather than me controlling it, and then I have the shoulders of Veda Vyasa to stand on. I'm not creating someone, so whatever wisdom I draw, I write about, and so there are the male readers happen to like my books, and then there are heptagenarians who like the way it is rendered. Maybe age is just a number, as we see. And coming to youth being skeptical and more research oriented, I think that's how youth should be, not just today. They were like that, like even in the ancient periods, the younger people were skeptical and open minded and rational. So we see you if we look at the Upanishads, right? A lot of conversations are all question and answers. Bhagavad Gita is question and answer. Upanishads are questions and answers, and even a lot of Puranic conversations are Q and A. They are not one-sided sermons.
One sided. Correct, correct.
Yes.
Okay,
So
wonderful.
youth are right in questioning. It's just that again, that imbalance that I spoke about, that has just seeped into our mindsets. If we just keep, stay open-minded, we'll find our answers.
We'll find our answers. Wonderful. So yeah. Um, okay. One question. I know we already talked before that we have our worldly responsibilities to carry on along with the spirituality, God or whatever religion we believe. But our sages, I'm not talking about the Vedas or the gods, our
Mhm.
have or knowledgeable people have constantly told us to abandon the worldly pleasures to meet God or to talk with God or to attain moksha. So God has created this beautiful universe just to ignore and leave it. I don't think so. And fact is that God themselves, be it our Tirthankars or any God you take, they have
Exactly.
enjoyed his worldly pleasures. So why they would want us not to enjoy and leave this beautiful world just to meet him? So
Huh. So here the message is to not to leave the worldly stuff, but to not get too much attached to it, excessively attached to the worldly part of it. Always be in the world with the focus on something permanent. So, be with the thought that this is This shall pass. This shall pass is the mantra, even that comes from the Western tradition, right? So always being conscious of this is temporary, gives us that balanced perspective. That is the word of the rishis. So if we have time, I can narrate a beautiful story. Uh,
Yeah, we can.
Once Lord Krishna and his wives they visited Vrindavan. So
Hmm.
all the wives of Krishna wanted to meet the Gopikas, Radha, and all that. They visited Vrindavan, and the Gopikas were very happy to receive Krishna and his wives, and they arranged for a picnic on the banks of Yamuna. Everybody were enjoying. It was afternoon. They just had their meal, and they were resting. Then Rukmini sees Rishi Durvasa on the other side of Yamuna. So on the others, then she thinks like Durvasa. He's an angry person by demeanor, by nature, and now it's afternoon. He may be hungry, so it doesn't look proper for us to keep partying. When he's hungry on the other side. So I want to somehow cross over and give him lunch. Krishna says, "Okay, fine, give him." How am I supposed to cross the river? We don't have a boat or something. So Krishna says, "Go and tell Yamuna. Tell her this. Ki if Krishna has been a brahmachari, he's a brahmachari, true brahmachari. Yamuna, give me way." Rukmini is like, "Oh, really? Yeah. Let us see what Yamuna believes." So Rukmini goes and asks Yamuna, ki, "Yamuna, if Krishna is the truest of the brahmacharis, give me way." And Yamuna gives her way. She's like, "Okay, what's happening?" So, but she goes because Durvasa is hungry there. She first goes and feeds Durvasa, and now she has to cross over back. And then she asks Durvasa, "Ki, I don't know how to go back now." Durvasa is like, how did you come in the first place? When Krishna is playing games, he just told me to ask Yamuna if he's a brahmachari. And Durvasa understands and says, "Okay, now you go to Yamuna and say if Durvasa has done a true upvas, you give way."
True.
I was like, then Rukmini doesn't have the courage to ask Durvasa, "You just had a whole chapan bhoka meal that I fed you."
And fast. Correct.
Yeah, and you are saying that you have done the upvasa. She goes back and asks Yamuna, and Yamuna again gives way to Rukmini. And she asks Krishna, ki, "What's happening? Has the meanings of words changed or something?" When I was not I think then the message of the story is that Krishna as well as Durvasa were not attached to this worldly, but they were in the worldly life. Durvasa was eating, Krishna was in his grihastha he was fulfilling his responsibilities, he was happy doing that, but he was not attached to it. So that is the message of detachment that we should gain. It's not to leave everything. It's not renunciation as per se. It's not like you leave your home, you leave your relationships and go away, but fulfill your worldly responsibilities without that excessive attachment. But, I know it's easy to say, tough to
Yeah,
practice.
that's what I was thinking. Uh, I just lost my father last August.
Oh my
But
God,
he
I'm so
would get
sorry.
better. No, but while he was breathing last in my hands, thank you for your concern. But yeah, when he was breathing last, I was not ready to let him go. Okay, I was not
Mm.
ready. I was just saying, wait a second, wait a minute, wait a minute. So while you're talking about attachment, I just remembered that, okay, that is what is meant by detachment. I should have, not happily, but I should have allowed him to go. While I was telling him to wait, it was painful for him to go, to breathe his last, right? So this is what you are talking about, detachment, I guess.
Yes, and as much as I'm talking about it, I realize I mean, I can't even begin to imagine what you would have passed through that moment, Kosha. So, again, yes, it's very tough to practice, put into practice, which is why I think we should be in this constant reminding each other of this
Thank
transient. And
you.
sorry,
Maybe.
next time I meet you, I'm going to hug you.
Thank you. But yeah, sorry. Okay. Sorry. All right. Let's move
That's
ahead.
okay.
Okay. We have very few minutes left, so I'll jump on to other questions. That Would you mind being labeled as mythological fiction writer, or would you change your genre of writing further in your projects? Also, there has been a splurge in Indian writers writing on Indian mythology. Does this add pressure to your school of thoughts?
So I'll answer the second question first. I strongly believe the stories find their own writers. So, I mean, if you just look at Draupadi, there have been tons of books written over her. And still, I think if some other writer wants to explore Draupadi, there will always be an unexplored angle to her. So, there is some eternal part of the ageless part to everyone who wants to explore. But coming to this mythological fiction thing, I think the genre classification is done by this organization called Nielsen, and Indian writers would need to put a concerted request to Nielsen to create this Hindu fiction or dharmic fiction, or whatever, if we can agree on a term which is not mythological fiction, civilizational fiction, or whatever, ancient fiction, anything, right? If we can pressurize Nielsen to create that category, then it would be more practical to term ourselves with that category. But till then, as long as we are dependent on Amazon and these official portals, I think it's mythological fiction.
Fiction. Correct. Let us know a little bit about you as a person. Like, how do you like to spend your spare time, in case you have any? Is your daughter a book lover, and how do you manage your time? And one thing that a viewer should know about you.
So I unfortunately I don't have spare time. The motherhood doesn't allow me that. But then the beautiful part of that, I guess, is I learned to what do you say? Whatever precious chunks of time I get, I learned to compartmentalize, to define a purpose, compartmentalize, and celebrate progress instead of celebrating the journey instead of destination. That's the lesson that whole family and motherhood gave me, and I'm going to cherish it. So my daughter is 3.5 years old. She likes to read.
Very young still.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right. So, what are your future projects? Like something you're working on? You can tell us about.
Yes, I would like to, now I've reached a point where I would love to explore a male protagonist. And also, I'm also exploring something in high fantasy, but inspired with Hindu aesthetics, the Indian aesthetics. Which is why I said I'll get in touch with you offline, because I want to understand things about Jainism as well. But something with Indic aesthetics, high fantasy with Indic aesthetics, is not something that we have seen. We have seen Lord of the Rings, we have seen Game of Thrones. They are like masterpieces because they have really built their world so well,
They
so
have. Yeah.
deeply, like they really existed, right? So I'm in the process of conceptualizing something. I hope it sees the light of the day.
Okay, we have a compliment from Jaishri that she's enjoying and she would love to hear more and more from you.
Thank you.
We
Thanks a lot, Jayashree.
we have Rajesh Rupal even joining the conversation. They say hi to you and me.
Hello.
Okay, do we have little more time? I have two, three more questions if I can continue, or do we have to end this session? Uh, okay, I will continue regardless of yes or no. I think that's okay. Do you think that any society can work without mythological stories, whatever you call them? I know mythological word is in debate
Hmm.
today. Whatever you call, in any culture, do you think that any society can work?
It'll be tough, Kosha. So I don't want to say something like we cannot exist without those ancient lores, but those are the stories of our ancestors, and we know for sure that our ancestors passed through tougher times and still gave us these inspiring stories, and it serves us as a reminder that we should probably do something to add so that our children, our descendants also remember us with the same so as a part of a continuum, I think this kind of ancient lores are very much necessary. They add that life and color to the society. Otherwise, it would be a boring
Hmm. Correct, correct,
existence. So
correct.
that's it.
Okay, and okay, according to you, which is the biggest myth about Indian mythology, Indian literature, which given a chance you would like to change or eradicate it, and why?
The myth that I would like to oppose is that ancient Indian society was too patriarchal.
Hmm.
So, of course, yes, we followed a strongly patrilineal structure. There were matrilineal structures also. There were a lot of matrilineal structures, but for a society to anchor and expand, somehow patrilineal structures have worked with in better tandem. So which is why they found that they became stronger over time, but that does not mean the archy. The whole word of archy means concentration of a lot of power on the man, which was not that way. Like even if yajna is done, a homa is done, right, the dharma patni is the one who lights the fire. So there is a lot of role defined for women, which is not just being submissive. So that is the patriarchy is something which I would like to go and oppose as the myth around Indian society. The other one is as if one particular caste was having a lot of hegemony over. Even that was not true. Each sect, caste, or whatever, varna, jati, kula, whatever you call it, had its role, and it was also porous for somebody seeking out an exception. There was always a place for somebody seeking out an exception for a better cause. It's just that there were processes for each of these exceptions.
Got it. Okay. And from this, whatever you are saying, whatever we had conversation, my another question is that ancient literature has always promoted and depicted polygamy instead
Polygamy.
of monogamy. For any reason, I don't want to cite the reason. Neither I know the reasons. So, how far
True.
it's true? To be
Uh,
honest.
from again, mine, I don't claim to know everything about the ancient India to have a give an authoritative answer for it. But from whatever little I studied, the first wife is the Dharma Patni. She is the one who holds the the role as ha always. So the other wives, the wives who follow her, of course it's in the man's better interest to not treat his one as favorite, the other as no, neglect her, because the consequences will show up. They're bound to show up.
Hmm.
But I think this used to happen only amongst the ruling class as a political, because of political alliances turned
Yes.
political.
Which
Yes,
we talked that so that other kingdom would be under them and support
under
them.
them, or you don't want to have a fight. I mean, the other kingdom would be too powerful. You don't want to fight with them, so just marry his sister or daughter so that that guy doesn't invade me, or all kinds of uh,
Politics. Yeah.
yes. But then when the what do you say, the later adaptation started focusing, this Shringara element became dominant. So a man with so many wives, oh, he can handle so many wives, which means that he has something better in him than the other men don't have, or something like that. So that became a poetical aesthetic to describe somebody's Shringa. So hero in the folklores, if it's a folklore stories, if you say he'd go about, he loves a princess, he would go and marry a nymph, maybe another normal village woman, and all, all three will end up his wives or something like that. All those folklore stories, because that's just a poetical element. That's all. But when we come to the Dharma Shastras, I think it's the Ekapatni Vratya itself is what is,
The main.
yeah.
Because this polygamy, okay, man by nature is monogamous, but and that is the, even if you see today, that creates a lot of unwanted things or negative things like prostitution, rape, many such things. That's what I feel. But yeah, single woman man or a single man woman is the thing which should be there.
So at the
Okay.
end of the day, everyone has a larger social role to fulfill. So,
Understood. So, okay, when we as we come to the end of the conversation, one thing I would like to know is the your social media handles where viewers can follow you and know about your work. Other thing I would
yes.
like to know is which all places your books are available. Apart, because right now no one can go to the shops. So apart from that, where all.
Yes, all my books are available on Amazon. You can just search my name, Saiswaroop Iyer. Please check out stories of your interest and let me know how you feel. I'm present on Twitter at the rate of Sai_Swarupa. I'm on Instagram as author Sai Swarupa, and Facebook is the same author Sai Swarupa, I guess. So I'll look forward to interacting with each of you. And I had a wonderful conversation with you, Kosha. I think one of the best conversations I had in a long time.
Thank you. Thank you. That's an honor. We have one more compliment. In summary, I take home the following from this conversation: Puru Shastra, attachment and
Purushartha,
detachment,
attachment, detachment, unknown
roles
roles
and
and
responsibilities of
responsibilities.
historic women.
All the best.
Yes,
Thank you, Raghuji, for joining the conversation. Again, thank you, Kosha, and thank you, Vijay Lakshmi, for putting up this stage. And I wish you all the best for
thank
future programs.
thank you. And it was a wonderful compliment for me as well. Lot to learn. I enjoyed the conversation as well, and will definitely look forward to reading your book. And
Thank you.
yeah,
Thanks a lot.
last message to our viewers on the parting note. Something. Those who are
So,
watching and those who will watch later.
yes. So, firstly, thank you for being a part of this conversation. Thank you for watching it. I hope it's useful to you, and I also hope you go back and check out my books.
Definitely.
Uh, yes, and also please, believe, because we are passing. We have just passed through tough times, and we don't know if they are coming back again. So, do please keep reading inspiring literature from our past, and keep spreading positivity around, and stay strong. All the best to everyone.
Thank you. Thank you for joining this platform on behalf of Vijay Lakshmi and Eternal Quest and me. And it was wonderful. Thank you, all the viewers. Keep
Thank
listening
you.
to these conversations. We'll be back with another episode and another interesting people like this to know their stories. Until then, stay safe and stay healthy. Bye bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.